2021, four men got together to make a radio show that nobody asked for. This is the result.
Welcome to Broad Street Radio. I'm Michael Morris with Jonathan Meanick, Bill Warren, Scott Briley. Boys, how are you?
Doing well.
Doing great.
So typically we start off with the Meanick on Money segment, which everybody loves, especially Jonathan, who hates the name of it.
It's the best.
But since this is all going to be about money in some way or another,
the whole show.
Why don't you introduce what we're talking about? Because this is going to be fun.
So today we're going to talk about the new NCAA ruling on name, image, and likeness. I think I may just, I think I have 2 years of eligibility left. I might go back and tweet out some Aquafina and maybe get paid for it.
We should do that on the show.
not?
We should just tweet out things that we're consuming and see if we get sponsored. Explain what name, image, and likeness is, because I've got a killer idea for Bill once you explain this.
Okay, so the idea behind this was you had these amateur athletes who are supposedly getting some type of compensation in order to compete for their university. And the issue was that the athletes felt they weren't being fairly compensated. And in true capitalism, I would agree that they were not, because the amount of money they were getting, sure, they were getting, if you're on full scholarship, you're getting free.
Yeah, so I would throw that out right off the bat. A free scholarship to a top 10 school, that's a heck of a deal.
Absolutely.
I mean, we don't have to
wait until you hear the rest of this, Biddles, because you're going to hear my idea, and Bill, I'm going to make Bill so much money with this.
So, you're getting tuition, room and board at a top university if you're one of the top players. Do you know how many scholarships are on a track team? How many full scholarships do you think are on the track and field?
Oh, God, there's got to be like 9 total.
Maybe, if that. I mean, I think it was only 3 or 4, maybe, full scholarship athletes. So, you've got some discrepancy there in terms of, okay, who's getting paid and who's not. I mean, I get it. Yes, football brings in all the revenue, or a majority of the revenue, but they shouldn't be the only ones allowed to make money. And I think that's where this came in, is that everyone else is like, hey, listen, this is America still. We're allowed to make money. We're allowed to be in business for ourselves. Why can't we do this? And the NCAA was always just pushing back and saying, well, it's because you're an amateur. It's because you're an amateur. I'm like, well, come on, that's BS.
But there was always a definition, right? The minute you got paid, you were a professional athlete. Now, prior to that, right, we all knew amateurs work their way up. Has it supposed to work with every business? Doesn't anymore, but let's just say that was the case. So how do we go through this process now of saying, are they all professional athletes?
Well,
the minute you get a sponsorship?
Let's take a step back real quick. So you could get drafted out of high school in Major League Baseball, and you signed a deal, but you're an amateur on the football team. You can't get paid to play your chosen sport in college, but you could be the quarterback. Like Chris Winkie was 75 years old and won a Heisman Trophy because he washed out in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Very true. Okay.
I want to get to this idea. So, Bill, you're familiar with OnlyFans, right? That's where you put all your money. We're for $9
I make all my money.
Right.
OnlyFans. Is that some kind of sports thing?
Well,
exactly.
Yeah, something like that.
They are dressed sporty, is what I will say. These young gals have their own website type things that you subscribe to. So here's my idea, digital genius. All these college kids are going to need their own website for people to contact them, rather than here's my cell phone number out on the internet. So you and I are going to start that company as soon as this is over.
I like it.
I want to go, but let's go back, Jonathan. We were talking about the Ed Obannon case. This literally comes from around 1995 to 97.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's taken a long time to get to this point.
Right. So Eddie O was the man in college basketball. I mean, he was incredible. And then he washed out in the pros, and he, like a lot of collegiate athletes, they don't do well, or they don't translate to the professional level. It's just normal.
Right.
But then
what is the percentage? I mean, it's really low.
To make it to the pros, it's less than 1%.
College to pro is what?
Less than 1%, because you have to think.
1%.
Just take college football, for example. There's 90 guys. They're not all on scholarship, but 90 guys on the team out of that university. So when we go, Ohio State had 11 guys drafted in the 7-round draft.
Yeah.
Well, they had 30 guys eligible that could have gone and didn't get picked up. right? So do that times the entire Big
What
Ten.
is it? Well, I mean, there's
120 or 126 Division I teams.
football programs. Yeah.
So you think only at max 600 kids are going to go, but that means they're taking somebody else's job in the pros.
Yeah.
But they can still get weeded out.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's the percentages. I mean, it's 0.1% of people that make it from high school to professional athletes, unless you participate in T-ball or 8U, 10U baseball.
I'd be in a T-ball
every
league.
kid's going to be a
kill those
professional.
kids.
Did you know that? I mean,
At 45 years old, I'd kill those little 8-year-olds.
literally, I had 12 Mike Trouts on my team this year. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so Ed Obannon sued the NCAA because of the EA Sports NCAA basketball game. They used him in the game. I mean, it was him. What was you say that he wore like some T-shirt or something?
Oh, so they made it like when you played these games. Jonathan and I were talking about this. When we were kids, you didn't care about Madden as much as you did the college games because they were so realistic to how teams were done. But Ed Obannon would wear a T-shirt where it wasn't a full T-shirt. It was going to be cut. He was left-handed. He wore number 13. They took the previous year's roster and that's everybody without their name. So, you look at Maurice Claret is in a game, but he couldn't benefit off of his play on the field, which is what he was bucking against.
Yep.
All those guys missed out on that money. What I want to know is if you're going to pay these guys, who's going to manage that money? Because I could give my daughter $20 and somehow she'll lose 30. Right. So if I'm a local car dealer and I want to make sure that Ohio State gets the number one quarterback in the nation, what's that worth? I'm going to give him $1 million, right? I'm going to help you pay for that kid. You're going to constantly have outside corporate sponsors paying for your football team.
Well, it's already happening in Miami.
That is true.
Yeah.
But
Right?
this is above board where they'll be able to announce
No,
it.
but I mean,
now-
even since then, what? It was just announced that a local martial arts studio that's spread throughout Florida, it's $500,000 that they're putting toward this. I think it's $500.
$500 times 90 kids,
players. Yeah, I mean,
it's a lot of money.
That's just one deal.
That's one, and that's a martial arts studio. I'm
Right.
not trying to knock it, but I mean, that's not what. When you think of that, you don't think of that as being a huge, massive corporation that has endless funds. Like,
But that's why I'm saying. So if I'm Scott and I don't want the big ticket ones. I want to get as many of these small ones as I can.
100%.
Give me 5 people that are going to pay me $500 a month, and I've got my scholarship, and I got my room and board through the school.
Don't forget about the free tattoos.
Listen, that guy never would have got caught if he would have thrown that gun into the ocean. He threw it into a marsh, and they found it sticking up like a.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think about all of the problems that I shouldn't even say problems, all of the stories that have been made up. Well, I shouldn't even say made up. All the stories that have come to light, that
All
people
the
have
truths.
issues, all the truths that have come to fruition about college sports that we all knew was happening. I mean, it was no secret that this stuff was happening. I mean, you'd see athletes driving brand new Cadillacs around town. Okay, everyone knew they were getting some type of compensation or pay. Now, nobody cares. They can't care because it's not a problem. So it's like, good Lord, it's finally things are catching up to where they should have been, in my opinion. But it's going to create every action. There's an equal and opposite reaction.
Right.
So now,
But that's why I want to bring in the other piece of this, because as we all know, Scott is my attorney, and when
I am not Michael's attorney.
you keep saying
I am an
that.
attorney.
You
I'm not
keep-
Michael's attorney.
No, you keep saying that you're not. You are. The fact that I say it and I don't pay you for it makes you the best attorney that I can buy.
So wouldn't name apply right there? He should pay you for it.
No, I don't want his money. Again, I am not
never
Michael's
say it's
if I
attorney.
accept his money, that means I'm his attorney. So I don't want his money.
I handed him back $5 that I borrowed last week. He goes, "You don't have to give me that." Oh, well, yes, I do.
I wanted to hold it over his head.
Yeah, he did.
Because I just
know,
wanted to get
Michael.
on Instagram and tweet about me for $5.
Yeah.
What I am concerned about is that these kids, again, now you're a corporation, right? Yeah. So I'm going to pay you, but they should have an LLC if they're going to do this. They should have an accountant. They should have a financial advisor, all those things. You grew up in Wisconsin, which when I always say, why? Why did you live there? But
I was born there. I didn't have that choice.
But in Madison, who's bigger than the Wisconsin Badgers?
Oh,
Right? They're all celebrities in their town.
Always, yes.
But everybody's going to be coming for them. They're all going to want a piece of those guys while they can get them now.
Yep.
Well, and you said all those things, but what about everyone's going to need an agent as well, right?
Yeah.
But
So, I mean, that's going to be a huge boon to that industry.
Oh God.
But that's the thing about the agent, because they're crossing over lines, because I'm representing you.
Right.
We'll have as many agents as we do real estate people at a certain point, right?
And they'll all be just as good as those real
all you
estate
need
people.
is one or two, and hey, you got a good living.
Yeah. And every single person, every stay-at-home parent's going to end up being, you know what? I'll just be an agent and represent these people.
Or they could be like Britney Spears' parents, and just really lock her down all
First
the
of all,
time and take all her
I
money.
love the Spears family. First of all, the younger sister gets knocked up at 16 years old. This one's locked in a tower like Goldilocks. What's going on with the Spears family? Like, how much money is that guy tooling around with that's not his? Because that Slave for You was not written by Mr. Spears.
That's a good question. I don't know,
is a
man.
good one.
It's,
You wanna know who
there's-
wrote that song?
that runs into my question that I had earlier for you guys is what is the percentage now that is going to go to the actual student athlete
Right.
versus now all this representation, LLCs, lawyers. I mean, you're going to need all these people. You're
It's not
not
what
just
you
going to
make, it's
hand a
what you
kid a $100,000 check and see
Yeah.
ya. I mean, a person like Jonathan should be in that, right? Hey,
But that's
don't
what I'm saying.
spend
It's a
this
whole
money
new
because you may
industry.
never get to the pros.
But that's what I'm saying. It's a whole new industry, because if I'm Jonathan, I'm trying to find every 19-year-old kid that's going to any of these colleges, even if you go to Miami University, not the U, but Miami.
There's only one Miami University. It's located in Ohio.
the
by way.
Miami where they can read. Put
Yeah.
it that way. So,
I'm glad you said it.
but I have no problem with it. This show's not on in Miami, but what I'm
yet.
saying is there's
Not
got to
yet.
be
Yeah, they don't
somebody
have- they don't have
looking. That is
YouTube down
true.
in Florida.
I'm hoping it's.
Yeah.
All I care about is this show goes to Russia. Thank you, Mr. Putin, for all your support. What I'm concerned about is if I was a parent and people taking advantage of my kid, because
Yeah.
it's fine to pay them, but what is it I have to deliver for you, right?
Yep.
There has to be somebody guarding these kids, because, again, what if the kid doesn't put their Instagram post out, or they don't do this thing? Now you've got to have babysitters, because you're treating this like a job.
Oh yeah, like I said, there is going to be there's going to be unintended consequences, no doubt, and I think that is a big concern. I mean, I knew what I would do if I had extra money at 19. It was probably nothing I should be doing.
Going all up your
Correct.
nose.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but that's the thing that I don't think any of these kids have thought about, and I hope some of their parents are in the background saying, "Hey, let's be a little bit more intelligent about this. Let's make smart decisions with what we're doing."
But
And if
that
they
never
do-
happened with the pros, right? I mean, how many of these guys blew through all their money
Well,
before the NFL was like, oh, God, we really do need to step in. We need to make sure that 25% is immediately put away. And, these people are buying these multi-million-dollar mansions and not really thinking, oh, that's $12,000 a month in taxes. I don't care about that because I'm going to play forever.
Well, and let's not act like the NFL wasn't part of the problem, because
Oh, I agree.
I mean,
I'm just saying, but at least they're working towards something where they'll have a little bit afterwards.
yeah, but you know how the average lifespan or career span of an NFL running back was like 3.5 years. Well, you had to be in the league 4 years to get a pension. You think they did that on accident? No, come on.
Oh, they did those timetables, and they just
They
said,
know
"Oh,
exactly what they're
Well,
doing.
it's
Four
like the
people are
life
getting a
insurance
pension.
companies,
Yeah,
right?
and
I mean, that is actuaries figured that out to
actuaries
the
figured that
penny.
out.
Yes. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, I'm hopeful that the kids can, make money off your name, image, and likeness. Go get yours. I mean, that's the thing. Like, you should be able to do that. There's no doubt about it.
You're the brand. I mean,
Right.
and the school's monetizing that. However, I go back to what you were saying. They have to protect these kids. I go back
Yeah.
to Len Bias. One of the most tragic things that ever happened, I think, to a student. Got drafted he's the number one. He came out, but got drafted by the Celtics.
He went to number 2 because the
Number two.
Celtics had made a
That's
trade
right.
the year before.
It was number 2.
But it would have changed the course of the franchise. It would have been like getting a Michael Jordan or LeBron James in the 80s, and it would have.
Huge. And the mistake that he made cost him his life because he wasn't prepared to handle this, and that people weren't looking out for him. All of a sudden,
well-
he was the guy with all the money, and everybody went to him
Right.
to attach to that, right? And they've got to protect these kids from that.
But that's the question: is where do they find the people to look out for those
That's-
kids? Because let's say you don't have both parents at home, whether it's you grew up that way or someone passed away or whatever. You're going to have so many people coming at these kids from all directions. Your hand is constantly going to be filled with money or whatever. Somebody's got to protect them. And again, that's 90 kids on the football team, 25 on the baseball team. You start to add those numbers up. There's not enough people to look out for them, which is why I have my attorney always look out for me.
Right. I mean, makes sense.
Whoever that is.
I don't know who it is, but
Yeah. But even if they have both parents at home, I mean,
But
the
the
number of
parents-
stories of the kids that come out of a really bad scenario, a bad home life, or maybe a great home life in a
But
really
the
bad
parents
area.
could be taking all the money as it is. We
Right.
just
It could
talked
be.
about
Well,
that.
you got to bring that up.
But they could also be
You're the one who brought up the Spears
victimized
family,
as
man.
much
Oh.
as the student.
We should have been
could.
talking
They-
about the
A lot
Spears
of the
family
parents, a
instead.
lot of those
yeah,
parents,
no doubt.
If they're financially illiterate, it
yeah,
doesn't
a lot of
matter.
those
You do
parents
bring up a
aren't
good
ready to handle
point.
that either.
Yeah.
Because there are those situations like kid actors that don't have access to their finances. And then like Macaulay Culkin, if he's not the best actor I've ever seen in my entire life, he is a De Niro type character.
Well, next to the Corey brothers,
Haim,
Haim and Feldman.
yeah, R.I.P. Corey Haim. But the parents were bankrupting these kids before they were of age to get it. So
Yep.
that is a good
Yeah.
point.
Well,
Bernie Kosar's dad did that. Bernie Kosar signed the deal for his kid and put like a finder's fee in it for himself. So he was good, but he took away from Bernie Kosar.
the statistics are like I think it was 50% of adults in the United States couldn't come up with $500 in an emergency. 70% couldn't come up with $1,000. I mean, really let that sink in if you think about that. So what is there? 170 million adults here. They all have kids at some point. For the most part, if those kids are going to end up making money off their name, do you think they're going to be well represented by their parents? I would argue probably not.
And I don't even know if it's a malicious
No, it's not.
representation.
It's not.
It's just financial illiteracy, which most of the country is guilty of, unfortunately.
I was never taught, except for by my parents, of how to write a check and how to balance a checkbook. I mean, that's not taught in schools anymore. I don't know if it is now,
But they don't even do that because everything is a swipe, right?
Right.
Everything is a swipe. Like you don't even think of it as real money.
Right.
Everything's on credit.
Yeah.
So if you think you've got that income coming in, to Bill's point,
Yeah.
the day that ends and you didn't pay attention to school, you didn't get a degree, but you made this money, what are you going to do on the other end? That's the problem with athletes is that they don't get their degree, they don't plan past their playing days.
Right.
What do you do when you're 31? Like we've talked about this. I know.
Or even actors. I mean, you buy the Elephant Man's Bones one year, and the next year you're doing the 75.
Nicolas
Netflix
Cage is
movie.
who I would give my money to invest. That guy, he makes solid decisions. He buys
does
a boat.
every day of the week.
Michael Jackson's like paraphernalia, but that's why he has to make 9 movies a year to pay off his old debt.
Right. 9 bad movies, but yes,
It's
true.
the classic Ponzi scheme.
Did you say bad movie? Nicolas Cage has never made a bad movie.
Oh,
That guy's one. Did you see the one with the
I'm going to go
bees?
with Liar, Liar,
I don't know,
Pants
man.
on Fire on that one.
Con Air was
Well,
suspect.
Scott, since you grew up in a corn-pone shithole town,
Oh, that was harsh. That was harsh. Hey, Madison was voted top 10 place to live almost every year, except for about the last 5 or 6.
in Wisconsin,
Now it's become,
In Wisconsin.
But here's
magazine.
my question to
Just
you:
saying.
if I'm an elite athlete, right? So Wisconsin always has great defensive teams,
Yes.
always has these monster offensive linemen. Now it's like trading stock. If that left tackle, if I want him at Ohio State or Michigan and I can pay him, why would I go to Wisconsin where it snows 13 months consecutively, right? I'm not just picking on Wisconsin. I'm saying pick any place.
Think about that with the professional sports. Same thing. Who's going to the Packers versus who's going to Miami? Obviously,
But see, I think that's a little different because if you have a winning program, people will go there because you think everybody would go to Miami or Tampa. Until Tom Brady went there, nobody wanted to go to
nobody
Tampa.
wanted to go.
True.
Yes.
True.
But I'm saying if I'm the coach, I'm not a recruiter anymore. I've got to have somebody that also goes out and gets corporate
Yep.
money.
You're going to have people raising money left and right, try to get these.
That's
And
what I
those
should be
people are
doing.
always
Great
well
point.
paid.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're taking a
But could you
percentage of the money
imagine?
that's
Because
coming.
they're going to get paid like an agent. So an agent technically is going to work at a school to go find these kids.
Yep.
We already know they were finding ways to funnel money under the table, but for certain kids. Now you got to do it for every kid. And that's where I question, does winning matter anymore in college? Does it matter? because your whole goal is to get your team on TV so people see you so you can go to the next level. If I can get $1 million a year, and I'm saying that's probably pretty high, but we already saw those twins at Fresno State were getting $600,000.
Yeah.
And they're basketball players.
Yeah.
When's the last time you watched Fresno State women's basketball?
I can say never.
Right.
Yeah. So Master P's son signed a contract for $2 million, and he's going to Tennessee State, I think.
Right.
Now, I don't know if he's a good basketball player or not, but
it doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter.
So he got $2 million. That's what I'm saying. I think down the road, do I care if I go to Alabama and win? Probably, because that's a different culture. But if I go to Cal, UCLA, if I go to OU.
Well, but I think there is going to be some differences. And I think, the Alabama's, USC's, Ohio States of the world, they're going to
Texas.
Texas
has a lot of money.
Texas has a ton of money in Austin.
And they've always had great teams, too.
But they've been competing with
Oklahoma.
a lot of kids. Yeah, a lot of kids have been leaving the Texas area to go. In the 80s and 90s, they were going to Michigan. But a lot more of them are coming to Ohio State, going to the coast, because Texas football was good but not good enough to be Oklahoma. If I'm not from Oklahoma, do I want to go there, or do I want to go to Cal and pay 60% taxes, but I'm playing for Cal? You know what I mean?
That's the other thing is like you bring up a whole slew of other issues with taxation. And where do these kids get taxed? Is it where they live, or is it where they play? Because that's tax law is going to get real.
Well, I was thinking, like you brought up before we started, Oregon, where Nike is based, and all these other big .com.
Yeah,
that's such a '90s thing to say .com, but you know what I mean. They can pay anything they want.
Yeah, I mean, Washington should be calling Microsoft immediately, trying to get sponsorship, because they're based in close to Seattle. So
I just like how this is being done, because the NCAA they literally like shoot the gun and then try to catch the bullet and go, wait, we did it.
Wait a minute. I looked up a quote on one of the articles, and it was interesting. Let's see if I can find it real quick.
Was it on OnlyFans?
It was not on OnlyFans.
The point being is that the NCAA, the ruling happened, and now people are already getting signed. You can't make rulings on stuff if they've already got contracts and it's done.
Here's this quote. It comes from Mark Emmert, who's the president of the NCAA. The current environment, both legal and legislative, prevents us from providing a more permanent solution and the level of detail student athletes deserve. That tells me there's going to be more to this story. I think there's going to be more coming down where they're going to have to change it. And this is going to be a convoluted pile of clustered like no one's ever seen.
Well, how much countersuing between different types of sports is there going to be as well? Obviously football always makes the most. Now basketball.
Yeah.
Well, now are the track and field teams, are they going to start saying, why don't we make the same money? Is this the whole men's and women's soccer argument?
Right.
Well, what's interesting to me is looking at that. There was I was reading an article where they were. This is just based on Instagram posts, right? They were talking about what of the value, certain athletes, what the value would be based on the influence and Instagram posts and things like that. The UCLA women's gymnastics team, they estimate it was worth $1.25 million. Million.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
And what are there, 9 girls on the team? It's not that many.
Annually, right? Yeah. But when you look at that,
how much does it cost now?
Hold on, but going back to revenue, how much does women's gymnastics bring in? Right,
it loses money.
But when you look at that list, I was floored, because obviously there was basketball and football was in there, but there was softball, baseball, women's volleyball, golf wasn't on the list, but when you take a look at the money that these kids are going to be able to make, and when you look at the gymnastics side, and what I like about this is how many women gymnasts can go to the next level, how many women's volleyball players can go to the next level. What is the next level, right? I like the fact that they're going to be able to capitalize on the brand that they're creating. I do like that.
One of the women gymnasts was on the show Ridiculousness, and the host, Rob Dyrdek, asked her, he said, how much money, he said, how many people do you think get to go to the Olympics in gymnastics? And he goes, first of all, there are 350,000 people that do gymnastics every year, which I thought that's a huge number. Yeah. And he goes, 600, of which, how big is the women's gymnastics team?
Isn't it 6 people?
Yeah.
Yeah, with backups, yeah.
The only thing, we're running out of time on this, but the only thing that you brought up that I worry about for the future is Title IX.
I was just going to say.
Title IX existed to protect women's sports and to get funding there. Now you're almost saying now you can go get your own funding.
Yep.
Right.
Well, and what do you say to the men's sports who got cut because of Title IX?
But that's what I was thinking about during the pandemic, like Bowling Green.
Well,
and all
did we
that
just
stuff.
kill Title IX with a executive order?
Maybe, I don't know, but
You know what?
It may have
I'm
been in
so
that
glad
list
you
of stuff
did
that
that.
was signed on
Yeah.
that first
You
week.
literally knocked us off the tracks. And we
I'm
always
sorry,
like
my
to
bad. That
end-
was my bad.
We always
My
like
bad.
to end on
I
something
really
with a
bad.
literal train wreck.
Yeah. Over here, Scotty Madison County over here just derailed us. That's going to be it for Broad Street Radio. We will see you next week.